What's up guys, this is Hepodix and today I want to tackle League of Legends from a different perspective. Metagame is always intriguing when certain champions get popular along the way as well as the game shifts along with it, but I'm interested to figure out things that aren't as mainstream and can still work out well, and it's actually fun to do so. A change of pace or break into meta, if you may. So today I'm talking about how Lucian fits into the middle lane and how I see the potential behind it to work out successfully. He's mostly seen in the bottom lane as an AD carry and sometimes in the top too, but mid lane seems to be the least popular choice and I believe jungle is kinda out of the question. Let's first talk about Lucian's good and bad aspects as a mid laner. Lucian can work out surprisingly well because he is able to trade nicely in the early game due to his range and physical damage output. He also has a great mobility tool, Relentless Pursuit, which allows him to dodge projectiles and more importantly, reposition himself whenever it's necessary. It's not the best mobility spell in the game, but gets more viable the later the game progresses and is nothing to be underestimated. For some players, they do not honestly expect a champion like Lucian to pop off in mid lane, so it could be harder for them to adapt for a new matchup they have not experienced. Although the higher the elo, the smarter the opponent gets obviously. Also, if you end up being in a 1 vs 1 situation, most of the time you should be fine as long as you use your cooldown smartly, and it's easier to go for the killing blow when you're fully aware of what the enemy champion is capable of doing and what cooldowns he might have left, etc. It's also very important to try identify the ally and enemy jungler's position to act accordingly, which brings me to the weak aspects of Lucian that are... Ganks are something you need to be aware of. Luckily you have mobility tools, Relentless Pursuit and Flash to escape from these situations, but with the lack of crowd control and the squishy nature of Lucian makes him still somewhat easy target to gank. Crowd control is also something you want to be aware of, especially heavy crowd control like stun or root are really dangerous to come by. Summoner spell Cleanse or item Quicksilver Sash can help out against hard CC teams, but it's rather a situational choice than a must. I would try out Quicksilver Sash instead of Cleanse because heal or exhaust is really important to have and I would personally sacrifice either one of them for Cleanse. Mid Lucian as a roamer or ganker isn't the strongest in my opinion due to lack of crowd control. However, this doesn't mean you should sit in the mid lane the whole laning phase. Just try to capitalize on the information from your minimap and allies and there could be great opportunities for you to help your allies outside the mid lane. This isn't the biggest surprise for most people, but mid Lucian is a situational pick no matter how fun he is to play. It's mages and assassins most of the time that takes the center, so let's say you have your regular AD carry as well as jungle and top, who specializes on attack damage. I would say it is not recommended to go for mid Lucian, but if the team is adaptable and has either AP based jungler and or top, then it works out much better because the enemy could just hard stack armor if you have 4 of your teammates specializing on attack damage. So now that we're done with the pros and cons, I'll quickly recap my recommended setup, although I feel that there could be alternate options around, so nothing is set on stone here. There are websites like probuilds.net that covers up a variety of different rune setups and builds, but still despite that I wanted to include this section in the video as well, so you might as well pause the video now if you want to take notes for my recommended setup for mid Lucian. Now let's move on to the game stages as I will explain how mid Lucian should be played in early, mid and late game. I try to focus on pinpointing the most important facts and tips here so it won't drag into a super long essay. Early game is really important to determine your success. In most cases you want to try to be aggressive with the help of Piercing Light, and the extra damage given from the passive Light Slinger each time you use an ability makes it a huge damage output on early stages, so you want to capitalize on that. Also note that since Lucian is somewhat capable of doing an area and effect damage, it's easy for the lane to push forward and therefore it puts you in a more of a risk of getting ganked. However, if you lane against someone that also has AoE capabilities too, like Ahri or Ziggs for example, this might be not such a huge issue, but it's good to be aware of. On the other hand, if you are ahead of your opponent, it's usually wise to try zone out the enemy from the minion waves, as it denies his XP and gold gain tremendously. Although this also comes up with the risk of getting caught by the enemy jungler, so don't get too cocky or that's gonna cost you eventually. Every time your opponent goes for a creep kill or CS, these are good opportunities to try punish them with auto attacks or Piercing Light plus passive combo. Assassins and champions with high CC and burst capabilities can be really tough to lane against, but with the smart use of a Relentless Pursuit, you don't feel completely useless against them either. Along with Flash, I feel that heal is mostly fine, but can be crushed because most mid laners use Ignite, so for this reason I think Exhaust is also quite a viable option to choose from, and why not even Teleport if you wanna try focus more on roaming and global pressure. Mid and late game are also very important because there are a lot of things you can do right and wrong. Keep an eye on what your team wants to accomplish, whether it's to group up and start a team fight, get the next Dragon or Baron, or even split push if the situation allows to do so. In teamfights, it's wise to keep a safe distance for starters and start to make progress whenever the tides turn to your favor. It's somewhat difficult to explain, but the point is that you don't want to be the initiator at all and rather pressure from the backlines and thereon take the advantage when it doesn't feel extremely risky to do so. Smart positioning and the use of cooldowns is what really matters for mid Lucian, and that's what determines between a good or bad Lucian player overall. To wrap this video up, I think mid Lucian is a lot of fun to play, which also was the reason I got the whole idea to make this video. It is a very situational option to choose from, but if your team is able to not to be toxic about it and wants to adapt, it can work out really well in different types of matchups to come. I mean, if we glance at the pro scene of League of Legends, there are players like Huni, who has well capitalized on playing Lucian in the top lane, and that is just really respectable in my opinion when there is someone out there who has the guts to play outside the safe boundaries, and that's why it's interesting to me as well to seek out alternative options and methods in League. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what your thoughts in the comment section below. I also would like to know whether you'd like to see similar content to this in the future, because it was a lot of fun to do this, experimenting outside the boundaries. If you want to see more gaming related content such as League of Legends and Overwatch, feel free to hit the subscribe button and notification bell to get informed on the latest videos. That's about it for this time, my name is Hepodix and have a nice day.